Medical assistance in dying is a right. The Supreme Court made that clear in its Carter decision in 2015. It is clear that more time is needed to get this right, which brings us to today's Bill C-39. The proposed one-year expansion is necessary to ensure that we move forward on this sensitive and complex issue in a prudent and measured way. It will provide time to help provincial and territorial partners and the medical and nursing communities to prepare to deliver MAID in these circumstances. It will also allow the completion of in-depth studies of the risks and complexities associated with providing MAID to individuals whose sole underlying condition is mental illness.
That is Justice Minister David Lametti talking about MAID, medical assistance in dying, and the fact that the legislation, which was ready to go into effect, is now being delayed yet again. He's going to be joining us, by the way, just after 5:30 this afternoon. That's not good news for some people hoping that that decision, which he mentioned at the beginning of that clip, which is now dating back to 2015, 2016, we're talking 7 years for this to finally get to a stage where yet again it's being delayed. Alexandria Nassopoulos is a woman in her late 30s. She's been struggling for years, living with fibromyalgia, scoliosis, chronic fatigue, clinical depression, and chronic migraines. And now qualifies for MAID, medical assistance in dying, but not really, or not exactly. She's on the line right now. Alexandria, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Let me ask you first, your reaction to what you just heard David Lametti say in terms of actually introducing this legislation and having it pushed back again.
Well, the thing is, I do agree that MAID is something that is needed. It is needed for those that are at that point in life where they're in so much pain they cannot exist, that they're no longer finding quality in life. But for me, that does not leave room for those that still want to be here. It's a huge decision that is putting our resources into having people like myself not find any will to keep going, in a way that we are saying from our government is saying that we are not going to bother spending our time and resources to help you live, but we will spend our resources to help you die.
So they make you feel like a burden, and I'm sure that's something you're already dealing with. Tell us a little bit about your story. I understand you were diagnosed with fibromyalgia when you were just 13, Alexandria.
Yes, it happened probably during the early 90s, so it was a huge struggle to find a proper diagnosis. At the time, fibromyalgia wasn't really something anyone knew about. A lot of the doctors I saw, they told me I was faking it, I was lazy, I had exercise-induced asthma, so I went through a lot of emotional trauma as a child till I found out that I had fibromyalgia. And again, it wasn't really taken as seriously. No one sat me down with a pamphlet saying, hey, you are disabled. You will not be like other kids. You are still a good person, but here's your limitations. So I've grown up in a society that has not been exactly kind or adapting. And there is, by anybody, able-bodied or not, the burden of, can I do the best for my family? Can I be the best partner, the best sister, the best aunt, or the best person to give into society? You know, I want to work, and I have tried working, but every time my pain takes over.
You said a moment ago when we started, you know, the idea of medical assistance in dying, you agree with the idea. In your case, though, you know, when you said, and this really struck me, where's the help for you now in living as opposed to having this come through to help you in deciding to take your own life, should that be what you decide to do? Has that changed? How has that changed? Were you getting that help before but not having it available now?
The help that I receive is very much I compare it to, in a way, it's a circle. I'm given one number after another to contact, after another to chase one doctor or this or that. I don't qualify for disability because I wasn't able to work enough to put into it. I can't work enough because of my disability, so my jobs are spotty. Yeah. And so I don't qualify for disability. I receive social assistance, but at the same time, I constantly have to battle and prove that I'm disabled, which also kind of, you know, it takes a chunk out of my mental health. I constantly have to remind the world that I'm, you know, a burden in order just to get by, because I cannot work a full-time job, and I've tried. But it's It does cause a lot of daily struggle.
So the reality of your day-to-day, trying to make those phone calls, trying to get those appointments, trying to get someone to say, okay, look, I do have a serious problem, and I would love to be able to get some help, as opposed to consider taking my own life.
Right.
At what point, I mean, how frustrating is that, and has it arrived? Have you ever come to the point where you're saying, you know what, it's simply not worth it for me. I'm not getting the help I need. I can't seem to find any answers here anyway.
I have, and I'll be forward, I have contemplated suicide, and not on the gloomy days I have depression, just on the fact that, if it wasn't for my family and friends and those who love me, I don't see myself as being any benefit. I know I will get older, and so my illness will catch up with me, and I'll become more and more crippled, and I probably would be homeless, because the assistance I do receive has been having to fight tooth and nail constantly to receive any amount of assistance. As I wrote earlier, that I received a notice that my amount I receive is being reduced because they no longer believe that I have any limitations for work.
They don't think you have limitations for work, even though you say you could possibly work a day or two, a week, a month, and then, of course, the pain takes over and you can't work again.
Yes.
Why is no one able to? Why can't you? I mean, do you have a doctor?
I do have a doctor, yes, but I have to keep filing, and that is my world and many other people like me, constantly fighting to prove they're disabled.
Wow.
I filed for disability a year ago, and I've not heard a single thing. But yet, with this MAID, I can be dead within a week.
So, it sounds to me like you feel like the government's more willing to help you die than to help you live.
Yes, and that's a very horrible negative view. At the same time, I understand how the world works, and we're all cogs in the machine, and not everybody can be taken care of. But in a world where people will take you by the hand and tell you crisis lines and stay here, we need you, we love you, but at the same time, not actually give you any help is so frustrating.
You're in your late 30s now, is that right?
Yes, but I've been fighting this fight since I could walk, since high school, till I realized that I couldn't walk up the stairs. I had to eat my lunch early so I could make it to class on time by walking up the stairs. I've lived with this my whole life.
You said before as well that as you get older, you know that this will get worse. Do you know that definitively? Is there some chance it can't or won't, or is there any hope?
Not really. That's why I'm a firm believer in mental health and mental well-being. Back when I worked full-time and I struggled my mental health was terrible. I couldn't function. The pain was overwhelming. Mm-hmm. I wanted to, die because there was no point. Now that I'm decided, yes, I am disabled, I will be home. And even though I'm scrambling to survive the next day, I am much better. Mentally, I want to have more time to do things, to work on projects, to be with my family, to be with my mother.
I understand you are still living at home.
Yes.
How would you like to have more independence, Alexandria?
Of course. Yeah. Of course. I'm a woman. I want to be, I'd love to be able to come over to visit my mother, not have to live in the basement.
Yeah.
My mother should be retired and not having to take care of a disabled daughter.
Who needs to hear your message? I mean, I mentioned the Justice Minister. He's the federal Justice Minister. Who needs to hear your situation? Who do you want to hear?
I'm not even sure because, again, I've been fighting this since I was 12. I've banged on every door possible. And I don't know if I knew the right person, who would listen. That's my biggest thing. I can yell at the top of my lungs, but who will listen and actively doing something? Because my voice is not alone. Even though I speak for myself, I just posted about my radio call to my fibromyalgia family through the Fibromyalgia Canada Facebook page. And they are the same voice. We're all struggling to get through each day. I have articles that I've dug up from the website itself, the Dying with Dignity, it's myths and facts. And one of this states about how that the myth is Canada is systematically targeting and killing, air quotes, the poor, disabled, and marginalized instead of giving them the support they need to live. And the fact is this is not true. They're saying most important criteria in Bill C7 is that an individual must have made a voluntary request for MAID and not result of external pressure. It must give informed consent to receive MAID after receiving all information needed to make this decision. But then I found 4 or 5 articles recently, within the past month or so, year, of one up here of, where was it? Well, it's from How Poverty Not Pain is Driving Canadians with Disability to Consider Medically Assisted Death on front page Global News.
Wow.
So, and people too are choosing, it's not the pain that's the problem, it's living. People do want to live, but they can't afford to live.
Yeah, and you need
I love my life. I love my family. But not able to support myself and to constantly feel like a burden. And the fact that I do have an invisible illness, people look at me and say, well, you look fine. And for the longest time when I was younger, I got told I was too young to feel pain. And now that I'm, approaching middle age, I got told, well, that happens. So when was it appropriate for me to feel the way I've felt all my life?
It's heartbreaking to hear you describe this. We're both trying to understand or figure out how you can do
Try
something.
being me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're feeling for you, Alexandria. And I just want to say, we are going to have David Lametti on the show at 5:35 today.
I look forward to that.
What would you like to say to him?
I'm not sure, but, I want to get across that there needs to be more empathy in society. More empathy, more care for everybody, disabled or not, that we need a living wage to survive.
Okay.
And, there's options out there, but I was born disabled, and I'm still expected to work. I can't. And so I'm left between the cracks. And I'm still a person. I'm loved by family and friends. How am I not considered valuable?
And you don't want to die. You want to live.
I want to live. There's a beautiful world out there. I have friends who've lined up to say how much I touched their lives, and without me, they don't know what they do.
We so appreciate you telling us your story, Alexandria.
Thank you.
And we will make sure that the Justice Minister hears your voice today.
I appreciate that so much.